You think you're making a decision right now. You chose to watch this video. You chose your playlist this morning. You chose what to buy, who to buy it for, follow, what to think about the world. And in those thousands of daily digital decisions, you have convinced yourself that you are expressing your individuality. But this is what the tech giants don't want you to understand. Each of those decisions were predicted, influenced, and in many cases created by algorithms who know you better than you know yourself. You don't choose your digital life. Your digital life chooses you, and the most sophisticated feels completely personal. So here's the question that should fundamentally disturb you. We are the most connected, and at the same time, the most conformist generation in human history. When we return to this moment, you with your device making what you think is a choice, you will understand something that will change everything about how you see freedom, authenticity, and what it really means to be human in the digital age. We are about to enter the digital cave, where the shadows on the wall are not projected by the fire, but by algorithms. And unlike Plato's prisoners, we believe ourselves free. Let me show you how deep this digital rabbit hole goes. Here it's something that will make you uncomfortable. That playlist that you're so proud, the one that makes you feel unique. You, the Spotify algorithm, predicted every song even before you knew you'd love it. Your discovery wasn't a discovery, not at all. It was a delivery. Right now, as you watch this, the algorithm YouTube calculates your next click with 70% accuracy. Netflix, it knows you'll binge next Friday better than you do. Amazon's recommendation engine generates the 35% of all purchases, not by understanding what to want, but by making what to choose. You think you're organizing your digital life, but this is the truth. Systems algorithms don't want you to see. You're not the organizer, you're the exhibition. This is the most seductive lie of the digital age, the illusion of personalization. Each recommendation seems carefully curated for you. Each feed feels unique. Yours. But personalization and individualization are not the same thing. A adapts to your authentic self. The other creates a profitable version of you. Consider this. When Nietzsche wrote about the herd mentality in 1883, I couldn't imagine a world where the herd felt like an experience personal, where conformity is conveyed by algorithms that whisper this is just for you, where millions of people would make identical decisions believing they were expressing their individuality. The most effective prison, it is not the one that looks like a cage, but the one that gives the sensation of freedom. Digital platforms have perfected this art, creating what researcher Shoshana Zuboff calls surveillance capitalism, a system that not only predicts your behavior, but modifies it. And best of all, are you grateful for the convenience? Think about your last rabbit hole on YouTube or TikTok. You probably thought, no, I can believe how well it understands me. But that wasn't understanding, it was programming. The algorithm didn't discover your interests, manufactured your attention, ignored your curiosity, kidnapped your dopamine. With every click, every swipe, every like, you think you're getting expressing, but in reality, you're training the system to preach to you better than you yourself you predict. And here's the question that should terrify you. If an algorithm knows your next move before you, who really makes the decision? Welcome to the digital flock, where being herded feels special, where shadows on the cave wall are not just illusions, but hyper-personalized illusions designed specifically for you. You came here thinking you had control over your digital decisions, but control is an illusion when the decisions themselves are manufactured. The question is not whether you are in the herd, but if you will wake up and see the fence. Now that you see the fence, let me show you the herd. Imagine this. For 0.8 billion people, each with a device that you think makes you unique, and all of them unconsciously doing the same digital rituals, surfing at the same pace, laughing at the same memes, outraged by the same content. It's no coincidence. It's the most successful hoarding operation in human history. Remember that viral TikTok dance? What did you learn last month? So did 50 million others. People. That Instagram trend you thought was so authentic was algorithmically designed to appear spontaneous. What digital platforms have achieved is impressive. They've made conformity feel like a personal expression. Research shows that social media algorithms not only predict viral content, but they create it. The platforms create what the academic saint to Flexi calls collective recreation through feedback loops driven by interaction. They amplify the content that generates the most reaction, not the most authentic expression. The result: billions of people sincerely believe they're discovering their authentic self while following the same breadcrumbs algorithmic. Think about your last strong opinion you posted online, how you formed it. You carefully researched multiple perspectives or absorbed them from your feed honest because the data reveals something disturbing. Most of our digital convictions are not conclusions we reach, but positions we were forced into. Adopt them. But this is where things get psychological. The digital herd it not only follows, but punishes those who stray. FOMO is no longer just the fear of missing out. It is fear of being left out of the collective digital consciousness, the culture of cancellation, viral humiliation, the anxiety of not having the opinion correct. These are the shepherding tools of the digital age, more effective than any silence. And who leads this flock? The influencers, the false prophets of our digital age. They are not leaders. They are human-shaped algorithms, optimized for interaction rather than wisdom. When someone with millions of followers tells you, be yourself, in reality is telling you, be yourself in a way that generates clicks, supreme irony. In an age of infinite individual expression, we follow less voices than ever. Nietzsche warned about the last man, someone who only seeks the comfort and avoid all risks. Look around you. We have created an environment digital that rewards security, following trends, and never straying too far from the algorithmic average. We've optimized for engagement, not for enlightenment, for virility, not for the truth. You felt it, haven't you? That moment when you wanted to post something genuine, something real, but you stopped it because it wasn't working well. That was the moment you felt the fence. That's when you realized you weren't on your own. Digital space, but in the flock's pasture. The most frightening thing is not that we are in a digital herd, is that we have been conditioned to find comfort in it. We confuse echo chambers with communities, viral validation with a genuine connection, and recommendations algorithmic with personal discovery. So here's the question that it should shock you. If millions of people make identical decisions, believing themselves to be unique, what do you become? Into an individual or into just another sheep who has learned to write? The algorithm not only knows you better than you know yourself, but it is actively transforming who you think you are. And in that transformation, something essential dies. What is dying is not just the individual choice, is the very meaning. In 1882, Nietzsche declared, "God is dead and we have killed him." He meant that traditional sources of meaning, religion, morality absolute, inherited values had lost their power to guide human life. But Nietzsche could not predict this. We would replace God with Google, sacred texts with updates from state, divine purpose with viral purpose. The digital age promised access infinite information, infinite connection, infinite possibilities. And change brought with it what researchers call digital nihilism, a deep sense that despite having everything at our fingertips, nothing really matters. We drown in content, but we crave meaning. Have you felt that way? That moment where you browse through endless feeds, consuming video after video, article after article, and suddenly you realize that you feel empty, hollow, like you've been eating digital junk food for hours, and you were somehow overstimulated and malnourished. This is not just an individual experience, but a generational trauma. Generation Z exhibits what psychologists call nihilistic mood and catastrophic mentality. They joke about the lack of meaning, because the genuine purpose seems impossible to find in a world saturated with information, where every truth has a counter-truth and every value has a viral debunking. This is what's truly insidious. The algorithms not only select content, but reality itself. They create what academic Bunch Han calls digital fragmentation, where coherent worldviews become impossible because each perspective is reduced to small, context-free fragments. Your beliefs become a list of conflicting ideas mixed by interaction metrics and instead of by logical coherence. Traditional societies had defective systems of meaning, but stable religion, community traditions, cultural narratives that lasted for generations. These provided people with what psychologist Viktor Frankl called existential anchoring. Digital culture offers the opposite, a constant flow, infinite options, and no reliable way to distinguish between deep wisdom and cunning manipulation. The attention economy digital does not reward truth or meaning, but interaction. Outrage generates more clicks than understanding. Controversy drives more interactions than clarity. We have created a system where the most meaningful content is buried under the most addictive. The algorithm doesn't ask, will this make people become wiser? Question, will this make them keep surfing? Think about your last foray into Wikipedia. Did you start researching something important and ended up reading about celebrity scandals? Or in your last educational session on YouTube that somehow gave rise to reaction videos? The goal of the platform's problem isn't your knowledge, but your interaction. They've monetized confusion. Nietzsche, he warned of the abyss, the terrifying freedom that arises when things die. Old certainties. The digital age has democratized that abyss. Everyone we now face the philosopher's burden, creating meaning in a world where traditional authorities have been replaced by algorithms that optimize everything except development human. So here you are more connected than any human being in history, but more isolated, more informed than any previous generation, but more confused, more entertaining than ever, but emptier. This is digital nihilism, not the absence of content, but the presence of too much meaningless content. Algorithm promised to solve the problem of choice overload by choosing for you. Instead, it created a new problem, the meaning underload. It removed the friction that forces us to develop our own values, our own sense of purpose, our authentic relationship with truth. And in this emptiness of meaning, we are becoming exactly what Nietzsche feared most. Not the Ubermensch who creates new values, but in the last man, who only seeks the comfort and avoid all struggle. The question is, are you becoming who you chose to be or who the algorithm chose you to be? Are you returning exactly what Nietzsche feared most? Not the Ubermensch, but the last man. The last man is not evil, but comfortable. He does not seek greatness, but convenience doesn't create values. It consumes them. And in our world hyper-connected, we have created the perfect digital environment for its emergence. Analyze your screen time this week. How many hours did you spend on create compared to those you dedicated to consuming? How many decisions did you delegate to the algorithm because you watched Netflix? How many restaurant decisions in Yelp reviews? How many life decisions are made in Google search suggestions? This isn't efficiency, but the systematic outsourcing of your agency. Digital technologies promised improve human capacity, but they've done something more subtle. They've made effort optional. Don't you remember? Something? Google it instantly. Can't decide what to watch. Let the algorithm choose. Don't know how to get to work? GPS takes care of it. Any friction that what used to force you to develop your mental strength has been algorithmically softened. This is what researchers call digital atrophy, the weakening gradual decline of cognitive abilities that we no longer need to exercise. Your memory, your orientation skills, your ability to cope with uncertainty. Everything deteriorates not because of illness, but because of digital dependence. You're becoming superhuman. You're becoming subhuman in the most convenient way possible. The last digital man, he doesn't even have a coherent self anymore. He has personalities. LinkedIn professional, Instagram influencer, Twitter warrior, TikTok artist. Each one optimized for the algorithm, a different platform. Each a fragment of what could once have been a complete person. Digital identity isn't expression. It's performance for machines. But here's the seductive thing. It feels good. Every notification gives you a dose of dopamine. Every algorithm that understands you makes you feel understood. Every platform that eliminates friction makes your life easier. The last man digital does not suffer, it is satisfied. And that satisfaction is precisely what makes it so dangerous for human potential. Nietzsche wrote, "Man, I would rather want nothing than want nothing." The last digital man has found something worse, wanting what the algorithm wants. Exercise your choice, constantly clicking, swiping, liking, sharing, but never actually doing it. Will is perpetually active, but never truly acts. When was the last time you were truly bored? When you sat down to think about a difficult question instead of Googling the answer? When did you form an opinion by thinking it through instead of absorbing it? Of your posts? If you don't remember, you may already be further along than you think. The most terrifying is not what the latest digital man lacks. Ambition, effort, growth. It's that he is convinced that he doesn't need them. He has achieved the happiness of the flock of Nietzsche through technological mediation. He feels comfortable, entertained, and completely convinced that he's living his best life. But here's the question that breaks the comfortable shell. If you don't choose your thoughts, your entertainment, your values, your own attention, who are you? Are you still human, or have you become something completely different? Something you think you're choosing while being chosen? The last digital man represents a possible future for humanity. But Nietzsche was not satisfied with that diagnosis. He offered an alternative, a path beyond comfort, beyond algorithmic guidance, beyond the digital herd. The question is, are you ready to walk it? But what if I told you there was another way? A path beyond the last digital man, beyond algorithmic slavery, beyond comfortable conformism. The Übermensch of Nietzsche, the Superman. He did not focus on biological superiority. He focused on psychological and spiritual transcendence, the ability to create one's own values in a world without meaning. And in our digital age, this is not just philosophy, it is survival. The digital Übermensch does not reject technology. That is the Luddite way, not of the self-creator. Instead, it transforms the fundamental relationship. Technology becomes a paintbrush, not in painting, in a hammer, not on the plane. They use algorithms without being used. For them, consider digital minimalism not as a deprivation, but as intentional management. When you consciously decide to disable notifications, you lose nothing, but you regain your attention as a creative force. When you manage your feats, instead of letting being controlled, you practice what researcher Carl Newport calls digital ordering, the art of technological self-mastery. Here's the paradigm shift. Digital Uber asks different questions, doesn't it? What is the algorithm? Swingo, what I need to grow? No, that is a trend. Logos, but it is true. No, what will get likes? But it expresses my authentic vision. This is self-creation in action. Have you seen glimpses of this awakening? The artist who uses AI as a collaborator, not a substitute, creating works that neither humans nor machines could achieve on their own. The entrepreneur who creates technology that enhances human capacity rather than replace it. The individual who consciously chooses depth over distraction, signal over noise. The digital Übermensch practices what I call resilience. Algorithmic, not through disconnection, but through participation conscious. They play the system by refusing to be manipulated by it. They create filter bubbles that challenge rather than confirm. They use personalization to be more unique, not to be more predictably profitable. But isn't this just another way performance? Zrenia, you might ask, here is the crucial difference. The digital Übermensch acts for itself, not for the metrics. Their digital expression serves their self-creation, not their interaction rates. They measure the success through personal growth, not viral reach. This is where the remix culture and digital collaboration become tools of liberation rather than conformity. The digital Übermensch takes the raw material of our hyper-connected world and forges something genuinely new. They don't just consume culture. They participate in your conscious and deliberate creation. Think of your last creative act in line. Did you create it to express something authentic about yourself or to generate an algorithmic response? The digital Übermensch knows the difference and chooses in consequence. Understand that every click is a vote for the type of digital world and he who wants to live. The deepest understanding is this. You now have the tools for self-improvement. Digital. Your smartphone is not a prison, but a potential workshop consciousness. Your social media is not a cage, but a canvas for authentic expression. The question is not whether you have the technology to transcend, but if you have the will. But awakening is just the beginning. The digital Ubermensch not only resists the algorithm, but creates new values, new meanings, new ways of human being in a digital world. And that creation begins with a single decision conscious. That one conscious decision is the moment you stop inheriting values and you start creating them. The digital Ubermensch not only resists to algorithmic control, but becomes a creator of value in a world designed for consumers of value. It's not about finding yourself online, but about forging yourself in the digital fire. And the process begins with a radical question. What would happen if your technology served your highest aspirations rather than your lowest impulses? Start with your digital environment. Ubermensch selects its information diet with the same care as an athlete selects their nutrition. They follow accounts that challenge their thinking. They only confirm their biases. They seek what researcher I.E. Parser calls bubbles burst, intentionally diverse perspectives that promote intellectual growth rather than comfortable stagnation. But this is where things get more sophisticated. The digital Ubermensch not only consumes differently, but creates with intention. Each post becomes an act of value creation. Each shared post becomes a curatorial decision. Every comment becomes an opportunity to elevate the discourse rather than degrade it. They understand what the philosopher Albert Borman calls focal practices, activities that generate meaning and generate genuine commitment. But this does not isolate you. On the contrary, the digital Ubermensch builds what sociologist Robert Putnam calls bridging social capital, connections that overcome differences rather than reinforce similarities. They create authentic digital communities around shared growth, not shared grievances. Their networks become laboratories of collective intelligence rather than echo chambers of collective ignorance. The most digital Ubermensch advanced practices a symbiotic relationship with AI. It is not afraid of being replaced by machines. It becomes irreplaceable through collaboration. Use artificial intelligence to amplify your creativity, not replace it. Harness the power of algorithms while maintaining human agency, creating what researcher Sherry Tickle calls blending of life, the conscious integration of digital and physical existence. Imagine the programmer who used GitHub Copilot not to write code, but to explore possibilities programming they never imagined. To the artist who collaborates with AI to create works that express unique human emotions through post-human techniques. Student who uses learning algorithms to identify knowledge gaps and then fills them in through deep and concentrated study. This is technology as an enhancement, not a replacement. To change the fundamental thing is to move from asking what the algorithm wants to what I want to become. The digital Uber designs your digital life around growth, challenge, and authentic connection. Optimizes depth over interaction, signal over noise, transformation over comfort. This sounds exhausting, you might think, but consider the alternative. The unconscious drift through certain experiences algorithmically, gradually turning you into who the system wants you to be instead of who you choose to be. The effort to live digitally consciously is the liberation from effort hidden from constant algorithmic manipulation. The deeper understanding this is every digital decision is a vote for the type of conscience that you want to develop. Your attention is not just a resource to be captured, but a creative force that directs. Your data is not just a product to be collected, but material premium for self-understanding and personal growth. The digital Ubermensch discovers something extraordinary. The conscious use of technology does not diminish its humanity, but rather amplifies. They become more creative, more connected, more capable of a genuine growth. They transform from digital consumers into creators, digital, algorithmic products, into authentic agents of their own development. And here's the beautiful irony. By learning to consciously choose their digital experiences, they learn to consciously choose everything else. Smartphone that once trapped them becomes a tool of liberation. The algorithms that once they shepherded them, they become servants of their self-creation. You're not just using technology anymore. You're using it to become who you choose to be. So here we are back to at first, you with your device were about to make a decision, but now you see what that was previously invisible. You're still not choosing your digital life as you thought. But here's the revolutionary truth. You're choosing something much deeper. You're choosing which influences will shape your consciousness. The algorithm still whispers, but now you decide whether to listen to it. That scrolling through your feed is no longer mindless consumption, but conscious healing. That click, that glide, this sharing is no longer a reflex reaction, but an intentional act of self-creation. This is what Nietzsche meant when he spoke of becoming in who one is. Not to discover a hidden and authentic self, but to forge oneself consciously through the choices one makes about what shapes it. Every notification you allow, every algorithm you feed, every digital community you join, already they are not simple preferences, they're architectural decisions in the construction of your consciousness. Now that you understand the difference between algorithmic choice and conscious choice, here is the question you reveals how far you've come. What kind of human being are you programming yourself to become? Think about it. Your answer to that question 30 minutes ago would have been completely different. If this trip has awakened something in you, you are ready for the deeper explorations that await you. Subscribe to join a community that sees beyond digital illusions to forge authenticity. Human potential, because this circle is completed, but the spiral of creation consciousness is just beginning. Welcome to your digital self-creation.